No. John never causes any problems, says the politician that never lies. Right? Politicians like us never lie. John never causes any problems. But we're on a little bit of a short deadline today, not just for public, and we're on. Okay? All right, everyone. Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting to order. Whoever's out there in internet land, welcome to the both of you. Hi, Paul. Hi, Steve. My God, Paul is on the golf course today. And I got a feeling Steve is not with us either anymore. So we'll say hello to Bernice. She might be watching. You never know. Very sick. Another time. First thing I'll do is call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody. Like I say, we're on a fairly short leash today. So, Mr. Westcott, you're going to have the right fast to record everything, one or the other. Probably doing both, knowing you. We are going to say, first and foremost, the agenda. You have it before you. I'll entertain a motion to accept it as presented. Moved by Councillor Aker. It is seconded by Councillor Ledwell. And call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded. Motion is carried. There are no outside items save for one, which really has to do with proclamations and presentations. And as you can see, it's the introduction of the Green Team. But before I get to that, colleagues, I think we want to say a very warm welcome back to Councillor John Walsh. We are delighted to see you, sir. And I know for you it will be good to be back in the saddle, back on the horse, and back at work. And it is a tremendous moment for us, and we're delighted to see you not only doing well, looking well, and I have no doubt in the next week or two the emails will continue to be cantankerous, and he'll be trying to get his own way, and he'll right back to normal. Now, I just wanted to quickly say that, John, we are really, really delighted to see you back. We are going to move on then, and first thing I'm going to do today, down in the gallery this afternoon, Council, I want to introduce, and they will wave at you, Holly Tracy in the green shirt. We have Noel Hammett down there as well, and Anna Collis with us. They are all members of our Green Team this year. One of them is missing, Julia Spry, is not with us this afternoon. I'm going to ask Holly to come up. Holly, I'm going to get you to come up and get really official here. Turn on this. Yeah, and I want you to talk a little bit about your Green Team and the plan for the coming weeks. I believe the Green Team is going to be in service here with us, for about 6 weeks, like that?
Yeah, about 6 weeks.
All right, so tell us what's happening, what you're doing, and what you plan to do.
So hi, everyone. So my name is Holly Tracy, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Mount Pearl Green Team, which is part of the Conservation Corps of Newfoundland Labrador. And we've already had a great summer, and we've had lots of goals accomplished already. So far, we have 19 bags collected of garbage, and so much other unbaggable items that you wouldn't believe that we've collected. So we've covered a lot of ground, and we're hoping for a very hardworking and diligent summer ahead of us. We have lots of environmental awareness events planned for the summer, one of which is included in the Mount Pearl City Days this weekend, which we're participating in the Melt Carton Boat Race, and we'll also be setting up a promotional booth for promoting our work on the Waterford River. And we have also several other environmental awareness events planned for different youth groups to help promote our cause and case to the younger generation, stuff like that, which should be fun. We have lots of fun stuff planned for that. And yeah, we're really hoping to get a lot done in this phase 4 of the Waterford River, and we're hoping to cover a lot of ground.
Well, now you know, Holly, that we want you working morning, noon, and night, 7 days a week, 24/7. At least until your term with us is over. We are, as you know, quite passionate here about the Waterford River and Mount Pearl in particular, but we've become very passionate in the last year about litter. Council made a very conscious decision as we went into budget 2014 to actually allocate funding and whatnot to actually do I'll call it a full court press, if you will, to address issues of litter. And I know the Green Team, when you come into service here, you got hit with that objective right away, and I'm delighted to know that you guys have embraced that and are carrying on and making that campaign actually work for us. I'm going to invite Council. Any questions or comments for our Green Team so far? Councillor Stoyles.
I just want to say, Your Worship, that I I'm getting steady. I came down last Monday and welcomed him on behalf of council. You couldn't make it, Your Worship, so I came down, and of course Julia was here as well, and Dan and Steve was doing a full day of training with them, and I know, it's great to see them, getting involved. It's an 8-week program. This is week 3, I think, of the 8 weeks. So I'm glad to have you on board again. Looking forward to all the great work you're going to do.
Thank you. I'd also like to, we've had a great relationship so far with Mount Pearls, which is awesome. And we also want to extend our thanks to the mayor for getting these awesome garbage sticks, which have been the best things ever.
By the way, and I just want council and everyone to know, I take full 110% credit. Ordered them. Mayor's office paid for them. They're fabulous, aren't they?
They're so great.
Jerry, they rate up there with the garbage cans, which I also claim credit for.
Do you have one for yourself?
They work well, don't they?
That
Amazing.
who's it? That was Reg White.
Reg White. Yeah.
Holly, what's the most...
Stole my thunder. Look,
Sorry.
had to give away the secret.
Sorry.
It was Reg White.
Credit
Yes.
where credit is due, Your Worship. Holly, what's the most surprising thing that you have found in the way of garbage?
We found several knives, and we found a pickaxe, which is pretty interesting.
Knives and a pickaxe. Your kids are on the loose again.
Sorry.
Several really big items, like a washing machine, bikes, scooters, several large metal pieces that were very fun to take out.
Very disappointing that people would put that in our trailway
Yeah, there's a
system.
lot of stuff but we're getting it out, which is great.
Well, it's tremendous that you're doing that. Any other comments, anybody, at this point? All right, I want to just say to you, Holly, welcome to the Green Team. We know you're going to do a great job, and we're looking forward to you continuing to working with staff here at City Hall, obviously. And I look forward to you on a fairly regular basis reporting back to council on the things you're doing, the work, the progress that you're making, and the work that you're doing in our community. The more public awareness we get, the absolute better it is, and that's by far more critical to us even than how many garbage bags you actually pick up. We want you doing that too, but we very much want you to push and promote our litter campaign, our clean environment campaign, our clean Waterford River. We want the cleanest urban river in Canada, if not in the world, before we're done. Having your team as a part of this is a critical element in making our community not only aware, but inspired and engaged in the process, and we think it's tremendous. Good luck to your team.
Thank you very much.
Congrats, guys. See you in the weekend. Want a picture of the Green Team? Well, we got one missing. Are we going to do it with one missing?
Yes, come on.
Come on. Let's get your snap took with all the council. Come on, councillors, you're getting up too. You see, I'm willing to take credit for everything, but I share blame.
Let's put the guy with the dirty shirt in front. He looks like he's working the hardest. He's working the hardest.
That's a terrible business. You're the one that has to drag through the bushes.
Why not? Me too.
In there,
That's okay.
That's right. Come over here.
squeeze a little bit harder, your shoulder up.
All good.
I suppose you're going to get her manual later.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys very much and good luck.
Thank
The
you.
campaign. We're having a good summer, but I'm not pleased about something. Can I let you in on a little secret?
Sure.
This is just between us guys. Shh. This is just between us guys, all right? Did you notice in the Telegram they're painting all the boxes already in St. John's? Like, have you noticed we're behind? Who do we blame that on? Do we blame that on you, Mr. Collins? I want to blame it on Councillor Tessier because she was going to paint one.
I could paint one. I'd love to paint one.
We need to get that campaign on the main streets moving if we can. I don't know how to do it.
There's a process.
If it was painted white or green, I'm there. But when you want somebody to paint flowers, yeah, it's a completely different challenge. That's it. There, we're going to move on. The next item, obviously, really would be the minutes and action report, and that's where we're going to go now. A motion to accept the minutes of our July 2nd meeting as presented. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any errors or omissions identified in the Public Council meeting minutes of July 2nd? Errors or omissions only? Can you approve them? Yes. All those, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Business arising, and I would ask that we reference it as an agenda item, an agenda number. Business arising? Any? Okay, that's good. Hearing none, we'll move on. The next thing would be correspondence. We have received a letter from the Honourable Felix Collins, who is Attorney General for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And he is writing us regarding vandalism and graffiti. How appropriate. We just brought the matter up, actually, when we talked about painting of all of these switch boxes and things. He writes us a letter to advise that it's not the role of government or the ministry to actually engage in trying to influence judges or to change the rules for judges when it comes to them determining the limits of a sentence for someone convicted of mischief, which the crime of graffiti falls under those particular legal statutes. Any question or comment beyond my comment, which would be this. It is evident, based upon the outcome of the last case we saw and the efforts that were made by others, it's evident that it is incumbent upon us. And if you read the letter, you'll realize that that's basically what he's telling us, that if we want to take someone to court for this vandalism, graffiti, we should ask specifically for restitution and present the value of time, energy, the stuff that was damaged, the stuff we had to paint, the stuff we had to repair, what it meant to the taxpayers to have to do that, and ask for specific restitution. And apparently, communities such as ours, St. John's et al., have not really been doing that in a specific legal fashion. We should probably make it a focal point. Councillor Tessier.
Question. We can do that certainly with our own city facilities, but I'm wondering if we were to, or if our MEOs were to apprehend somebody who was vandalizing private property, what our role is in that. Because that, you know, as everybody knows, that the legal process can be very expensive.
Our role in that is only as a regulator, I would believe. That's my quick interpretation would be that our role is to say to a private home or a private business that's got a lot of offensive graffiti or whatnot on the side of the building, though it not be their fault, our role would be to go to them and say, you are required by the bylaws of this city to paint it up, clean it up, get rid of it, do whatever. As for any restitution that that private business or person would want to demand from the court, I think it would be incumbent upon them.
Yes.
We couldn't really play any role, I don't think.
Other than making them aware that 738, Section 38 would apply to them as well.
Would applies to
absolutely.
them, applies as well.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in favor of, you know, any and all measures that could prevent this from happening, because it's just absolutely senseless.
Unbelievable. So let's get the boxes painted. Any other comments on the letter? Hearing none, then I'm going to move directly to committee reports. We begin with Community Services. Deputy Mayor Locke, floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. 3 quick items here now, just information notes. The first, of course, is the City Day celebrations that our Green Team made reference to. This week, July 18th to the 20th, it'll be our 26th annual Mount Pearl City Days. Full of entertainment. Residents should have received the little mail out here, and outlining some of the great events. We'll start off on Friday with seniors tea time. Just a note, though, Your Worship, that we're going to change the venue.
Yes.
The seniors tea will now be held at the Mount Pearl Soccer Clubhouse, same time, 2 to 4, and not at the Park Place Community Centre. So just to throw that out there to the public, that it will still proceed, but we've just changed venues. So that's going to kick us off, the seniors tea time. I know we had our first last year. It was a great event. I think Councillor Walsh played last year. Did you not, Councillor Walsh?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, and it was.
We had a great time.
Had a great time. It was a great way to kick off the weekend. And then, of course, 6 o'clock we will have our annual pig roast at St. David's. And then
have you heard about the latest?
No.
The latest with the pig roast, right? Should I tell them?
Well,
What do you think? I got it. Should I tell them?
Now.
The the first 400 or 500 people to the field are going to be getting some fresh seafood chowder.
Stop that.
I'm not lying.
There's a new chef in town.
There's a new chef. Rory is bringing seafood chowder,
Nice.
and my request for Steamies has once again been vetoed.
For what?
Steamies. Why? How come nobody knows what? Who knows what Steamies are?
Dumpling, isn't it?
No, it's a hot dog, boys. It's a hot dog, and they're called Steamies. I'm amazed how many few people around here. Obviously, you didn't grow up in Central.
No.
All right, moving on.
Okay. So then, after our pig roast, we'll have our outdoor movie, which is always a great hit. And looking at the long-range weather, it looks like we're going to have sun on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, so it
Yep.
seems to be a great weekend. The Muppets Most Wanted is the movie, so that'll be a great feature for the kids to come out. And then, of course, it continues on Saturday. We have Family Fun Day up at Powers Pond Park, where we'll have our birthday cake and some performers, and of course the boat race, Central Dairy's milk carton boat race, which
Always a
is
hoot.
always a great bit of fun. Later in the day, we have the classic car and motorcycle show, and then the family variety show will clue up for the Saturday events. Then for the Sunday venues for July the 20th, another great feature I think we started last year was the Prince and Princess Pancakes, which was neat. We had a lot of kids out last year in uniform with their little costumes on, even some of the parents dressed up as well. I think Councillor Stoyles also had her crown on last year, so she joined in a part of the fun.
And grandchildren.
And the grandchildren
Dressed
were up there as well, yeah. And then we'll have the Mega Birthday Blitz in concert. Musical entertainment highlights the Masterless Man and the Irish Descendants. So again, it aims to be another great weekend, well planned out by our City Days Committee. So kudos out to them. Again, the residents should have received the mail out outlining all things. If they didn't receive one, they can go to our city's website. And of course, we encourage non-residents, any visitors to the province or to our fine city, to go to the city's website, and you can certainly see an outline of all the events that are upcoming.
Going to be great.
The next item of worship has to do with the family canoeing program in Powers Pond, which I think is a great event as well, or a program that we have ongoing there. It started on Monday, July the 7th, at Powers Pond from 6 to 8 p.m. And we have 12 canoes, 4 double kayaks, and 1 single kayak. And it's first come, first serve. So if someone would like to come to Powers Pond on a nice sunny evening and go for a little paddle around the pond, we have 3 attendants on up there. Our summer crew is on to oversee the water safety and to make sure that people are abiding by safe water rules. And last, I think the 7th, we had over 50 participants at Powers Pond Park. So it was a great turnout, and I just wanted to put that out there to let people know that if they want to get out for a walk on the Powers Pond Trail, stop by, have a look at our new fountain, and then go up and finish it off with a nice little paddle around Powers Pond. So
Great fun program.
It's a great program. So it's going to, it'll be every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, again from 6 to 8 p.m. And this will go on until August the 28th. And of course, weather permitting, I do know they monitor wind conditions, and I think last week they pulled the boats in because it got a little breezy. And again, for safety reasons, we brought the boats in. Once the wind subsided, people could continue to go out and enjoy the paddling. This is free program, no charge. Yep. Life jackets and the boats and canoes provided.
Fun thing to do.
Yeah, it's great.
Fun
I
thing
think
to
it's
do
a
with
great.
kids.
I think we could expand it, but yeah, it's great. The last thing for me, Your Worship, are the summer day camps. We have the Scamper Camp at Kenmount Park Community Centre, the Rambler Camp at St. Peter's Junior High, and the Discovery Camp at the Reed Community Centre. They're up and running. We have over 230 children on a weekly basis taking part in these camps. And of course, as we always say, we're very proud of our programs, and our ultimate goal is to provide participants with a safe and enjoyable recreation experience. So it's delightful to see so many people taking part in this. And again, just a precaution to parents and caregivers who are dropping their kids off or are picking the participants up at the Reed Community Centre, that's with the Discovery Camp. Given the work that's ongoing up at the site, just to be extra cautious about the vehicles, because kiddies, when they get out of the car, they're excited on a summer's day to scoot off and meet their friends. Just take precautions to make sure that there are no accidents there. And that's it for our committee report, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. Going to turn to corporate services. Councillor Akert.
Yeah, one item for council's consideration, Your Worship. It's our invoices for approval totaling $726,387.41. Noting that About $100,000 of that is going to regional transit services. About $50,000 for the Robin Hood Bay, the garbage down to the landfill. The biggest purchase that we're approving here today is Spartan Fitness, which is the new fitness equipment for the multiplex, which I'm assuming is your treadmills, your steppers, your elliptical equipment, and that kind of stuff. She's opening soon, and of course, it's not just about the building. We have to have all the equipment in there. So that's around a little over $200,000. And it's really mundane stuff, you know. The Municipal Assessment Agency, for example. Our third quarter assessment fees, $69,118 is included there. And as well, I know $12,000, although it's a small purchase, it has to do with some consulting work related to the removal of the wall down the Park Place, which is going to be looked forward to by many, not just on council, but by the user groups down the Park Place, including the Mount Pearl Seniors Independence Group. So I'd like to move invoices 1 through 18, Your Worship, please.
1 through 18 is seconded by Councillor Tessier. Question or comment? Councillor Walsh?
Highlighted a number of things. I just had a quick question on 4 and 5. Like, why would we need to spend $12,500 on radio and ABL rental? I know it was February and March during the winter snow clearing season, obviously, but like, what happened there? Why would we spend that kind of money on that?
Mr. Antle? Is that a Public Works? Or Mr. Silver, who is going to address this? Mr. Silver.
Yeah, these are our airtime fees for our AVL systems.
Oh, airtime.
So basically, they'd be.
So it's not equipment at
So
all.
it's not equipment.
No, there is a small rental component built in for equipment, but most of it's airtime. So basically, the
So we
community.
spend $72,000 a year on airtime?
No, what it is there's certain times in the year when there'd be payments required under the contract. So they're not paid on a monthly basis.
It's front loaded.
It is front loaded, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that
The
explain
shipping
it?
container for the
Okay,
MEO. We're
question.
storing our MEOs now in shipping containers, or it says MEO storage? Can we just build them?
That's why we're not letting them go home. We're just storing them now. I'm calling the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded motion is carried. That's it for corporate services, I'm assuming. We're moving on then to infrastructure and public works. Councillor Walsh, you're on the floor,
Thank you
sir.
and I'm going to deliver it as if I knew exactly what
Exactly
was
what you were
going on,
doing.
and I was attending everything, up to speed on everything. So, this will be a real test for sure.
I believe you're up to speed. I just do.
Well, I've had a couple of conversations. If that brings me up to speed, that's good. That means the director's good. First of all, the CP1 for 2013, yes, it is correct, 2013. We're a little behind in terms of the street upgrading. And of course, that's part of the routine and the schedule of the contract work that's always provided. And of course, letting the contract, although I think the last year or so has been a little better than previous years, but they're normally let so late that you get really behind in doing the street repaving. It's recommended that the contract be awarded to Newfound Construction, which was one of just 2 qualified bidders. We had 2 bids only, which is, I guess, a sign of the times in terms of the amount of work that's going on in the region. Both were qualified, and Newfound Construction was the lowest with $1,306,874,000.38. So I'll make a motion for approval of that, and I so move.
Moved and seconded by the deputy mayor. Very quickly, what areas are covered by this $1.3 million contract? What streets are we talking?
They're listed, but I don't have the list here.
No, that's why I was kind of looking at Mr. Antle. I kind of
have it?
hoping he had it off the top of his head.
There's actually a listing in the committee of the whole report.
Is there?
Yes, there is.
Which shows this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Second item, Your Worship, is the roads report.
Well, first we better approve that one.
Oh, sorry, I
sorry,
did make a motion.
Yeah, the question has been called. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you very much. The summer activity report, we have, on average, Your Worship, as you know, we have a little bit of a change in terms of how we are delivering our bulk garbage. We have an early and late season scheduled pickup, and the midsummer pickup is by request only. On average, we're getting about 30 requests per week, which is probably a reasonably good uptake, actually, if you look at about 120 requests per month for bulk garbage. We did that because we didn't see the need for another citywide scheduled pickup in all of the colored zones, and this seems to be working reasonably well. So again, if you have the need, pick up the phone, call our Public Works Department, and we'll be happy to schedule a pickup for you and for your household for bulk garbage. We have approximately 75% completion for curb and sidewalk replacement right now, and we currently have 6 remaining resident requests for curb cut downs. These we do on and probably not even, honestly, a cost recovery basis, but occasionally when someone has a driveway that's widened, or if they do some work on the front of their house, there will be a need to cut back the low back in front of the house, and we do that supposedly on a bit of a cost recovery basis, and we have about 6 of those outstanding right now. We're continuing to do repairs to damage to driveways and parking lots, which are part of the regular routine for snow clearing operations. And further down in the listing as well, it does mention that lawn repairs are up to date in terms of winter repairs as well, which is great to see. Milling with cold planer is continuing throughout the streets. These are only for really rough areas where we have sunken areas in the streets and that sort of thing, where we'll dig them up and replace it with the cold planer. Street cleaning is ongoing, and the regular lawn repairs and repairs to the green spaces are some of the things that you might expect to be seeing happening this time of the year. We're also working to repair, replace damaged, missing street signs. That's an ongoing battle. We do it throughout the year, but it seems in the summertime is the time when we're most able to get at that and take note and inventory of the different signs that may be missing. Sometimes, in fact, the poles and all are damaged or missing, and sometimes they actually get damaged as part of the snow clearing operations as well. If I can just get back to where I was here. Parks are continuing the general cleanup and trails, and I just want to say a word of gratitude again to the public and some of the various special interest groups. I know the 20-minute makeover was, again, a huge success. Some of the various neighborhoods and the different community groups continue to do that. Schools took part again this year and did a cleanup around the properties, and that really helps quite a bit. So it makes the job of staff that much easier, but some of the work is continuing on that, and it's just, as I said, an ongoing battle, especially in some of the areas where the coffee shops are and the supermarkets are and that sort of thing. Summertime, of course, is a time when you have the regular UTM work going on, things like valve exercising, hydrant flushing, private city repairs, water sampling, catch basin cleaning, meter reading. All those kinds of activities are going out throughout the summer. The last thing I want to mention, there's no motion required for any of that. There's just an update. The multiplex, as you know, this is a very convoluted, complex system in terms of engineering. There's civil, structural, architectural, mechanical, electrical engineering. The bulk of the testing or commissioning that's happening right now is on both the electrical and particularly the mechanical side. As a matter of fact, today when I spoke to the director, he mentioned that the private consultant that was hired to oversee the mechanical side, Ken Jor, was actually on site today all day to oversee some of the commissioning, and he probably will be required again before it's all done. It's a very complex piece of work. I know we get a completion rating almost every meeting, and I think at the last meeting we said we're 98% financially complete. But of course, all this has to be commissioned, tested, make sure it's working before we can sign off to accept that the work of the contractors and various subcontractors have been completed. In all, we have 14 different categories and over 50 people, believe it or not, involved in the commissioning of this facility. So we're hoping to be able to be on schedule. It's a very tight schedule, and of course it's all contingent on how well the commissioning of the different components of the facility actually pans out. We have our fingers crossed and hope that everything will go well. And I know we're in very capable hands with our own staff, with the oversight that's been provided by Infrastructure Public Works, the coordination with Community Services, and of course the major contractor is Marco, but there are dozens and dozens of subcontractors working with them as well. So it's a big piece of work, and we look forward to its completion. That's it for me, Your Worship. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir, very much. Any question or comment, Deputy Mayor?
Just a couple of things. A question on the street work that we're doing with our curbs and sidewalks. And I raised this last year. You may remember when I was invited to go for a scooter ride around the city with a lady in an electric scooter. And, at the time I was questioning whether or not we could make it a little easier for people getting around. Has that been factored in, Director Entel, into the contracting? So when they build the sidewalks, are we going to try to take those cuts out of it that caused all the bumpy rides? And are we going to lower the the curbs to street level, so it's not as rough a ride?
Yes, we're going to follow the specifications that we have to use from government number 1 for building accessibilities for actually the ramp slopes and what have you. We will attempt to try to make them as smooth as we possibly can. Sometimes it's the actual trades work of too deep of a depression, so we'll monitor that with a closer inspection.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. We did take that into consideration, we factored that in. Also, with respect to the bulk garbage that Councillor Walsh did mention, I've got a lot of positive feedback on they like these individual calls. They think it's so much more convenient.
Yep.
So hats off to the people that brought that in. They said it was great. But again, the concern is that some people are putting the bulk garbage out a little too early, because our whole purpose of doing this is we don't want clutter around our city streets. So I think it's being picked up on Monday. That's what we've coordinated. So we ask people not to put it out the Wednesday or Thursday of the week before, because again, you've got the eyesore. And also getting back to the people with special needs getting around in these motorized wheelchairs. Some people are putting the bulk garbage out in the sidewalks, which again impedes their motion up the street. It's the same thing with our garbage carts when we put them out there. Again, because the lady pointed that out, that if you're coming down the scooter, well, you can't get around. You can't move the garbage, the bulk garbage, and they can't get down off the curb. So again, just a reminder to the residents that if they're putting their bulk garbage out or their garbage bin, to ensure that it's not on the sidewalk impeding pedestrian traffic or anybody in these motorized wheelchairs.
Councillor Stoyles.
One of the things I noticed, and I'm assuming there are stickers, and that when I was in Newry over on Styco a couple of days ago, somebody had our bulk garbage, our garbage containers, new containers, and they had no parking sticker, and it had the City of Mount Pearl logo on it, and I thought it was just great because they had it parked not in the driveway, on the side, and in big letters was no parking. I thought it was great, and I was wondering if it was something that we could send out to all the residents, and because in some areas, now not in all areas, people, because some areas you can't park and there's no parking on that side of the street. So everybody wouldn't need them for sure, because if there's no parking on their side of the road, nobody's allowed to park there anyway. So we wouldn't have to give them out to everybody in the city, but I thought it was really, really good to see the no parking stickers, because when I pulled up and...
Is it on the container?
It was on the container. It was physically on the container. Now they had other stickers and children's stickers and stuff like that also on the container, but on the container itself it was big black and white, and our logo and everything was on it saying no parking. So I thought it was a great idea.
Did we actually provide that, Mr. Randall?
We had them produced shortly after we had the carts in operation, because we were getting not a lot, but we're getting about maybe a dozen or so requests from individuals that actually had cars parking in front of their carts. The carts, when they're in the driveway, you can't park in front of somebody's driveway, so we can ticket those. In some cases, the carts can't fit in the driveway corner, so they're actually on the side of somebody's lawn. And sometimes people were indeed parking in front of the carts. So on a case-by-case basis, we had the signs made up, no parking stickers put right on the carts.
Okay, good idea.
I'd also like to give you
more than anything.
some information in relation to your question, Mayor, in relation to the 2013 street upgrading. The two streets were Neil Place and Oxford Crescent.
Okay, thank you. That concludes all of that. We're moving on to Planning and Development Committee. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. First item we have this evening is a municipal plan amendment, and as well an amendment to our development regulations. Of course, we've been referring to this up to this point as the lounge use amendment. The City adopted these amendments on May 20th of 2014. Essentially, the purpose of the amendments is to remove lounge from the list of permitted uses in the regional centre designation and the commercial regional zone. The purpose here is also to provide Council with the discretion to consider such applications for lounge uses and to provide for more opportunity for some public feedback and consultation, because, of course, we know that a lounge use could certainly raise the need for some feedback from the public before we're able to consider that as a Council. A public hearing was scheduled for these amendments on June 25th of 2014. It was advertised in the Telegram on June 14th and June 21st. However, no responses were received. And therefore, the recommendation is from the Planning and Development Committee that the Mount Pearl Municipal Plan 2010, Amendment Number 11, 2014, and the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, Amendment Number 35, be approved, and that the amendments as attached be sent to the Department of Municipal and Intergovernmental Affairs for registration, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Walsh. This is not driven, is it, by an actual application for a lounge that we may feel is, controversial. And this is all part of that review of updating bylaws and things.
That's right.
Another one of those things that we've discovered, right? That's all. So it's more housekeeping than anything.
Exactly, Your Worship. This is not to do with any one particular application. This is just, as you say, a review, some housekeeping items to sort of update our regulations and to make them a bit easier to function.
Okay, it is moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our next item is a proposed building extension. This is at 16 Kyle Avenue. The application is from Redwood Construction on behalf of Baker Hughes. They're proposing to construct a building extension consisting of floor area of 838 square meters at the western portion of the existing building. Now, the building is a combined office and warehouse use. The extension is going to be used for the purpose of increasing their current on-site storage for materials that are used in the offshore oil industry. The materials that are going to be stored include solvents, inhibitors, disinfectants, and crude oil. Now, some of these materials can be defined as hazardous, but it is important to note that this is not a new or any kind of a different use. This is simply an extension of a current use, and it meets the city's regulations in every way. Baker Hughes have also submitted an emergency response plan, which lists all of the materials to be stored within the building. So they've provided all of the documentation that they're required to provide. The application also meets the city's parking requirements, as 4 additional spots have been allocated as part of this particular proposal. This is a permitted use within the industrial light use designation and the industrial light use zone. There was a briefing scheduled on June 24th of 2014, but no responses were received as part of the public notice. Therefore, the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the application for Redwood Construction, proposing to construct a warehouse extension consisting of a gross floor area of 838 square meters to the western portion of the existing building at 16 Kyle Avenue for the purpose of increasing the current on-site storage capacity of hazardous materials, be approved and a development permit be issued subject to the conditions outlined by the Planning and Development Department, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is a consolidation of property and storage yard expansion at 959 to 963 Topsail Road. This is an application from Redwood Construction. It is an application to consolidate the property in question and to establish an outdoor storage yard east of the existing building at 961 Topsail Road and south towards the Waterford River Valley. Redwood recently acquired the property at 959 Topsail to accommodate additional exterior storage of their machinery, supplies, and materials. They recall that Council recently approved amendments to the municipal plan and to the development regulations to relocate the boundary for this particular property down to the top of the slope there that exists between this property and the conservation zone, which is, of course, the Waterford River Valley. Of course, the boundary now corresponds to the very top of that existing slope. This use is a permitted use within the commercial mixed zone. It requires council approval as it is a consolidation of land. And therefore, the Planning and Development Committee recommends the application by Redwood Construction proposing to consolidate property at 959 and 963 Topsail Road to be able to establish an outdoor storage yard to the south and east of the existing building at 961 Topsail Road be approved and a development permit be issued subject to the conditions set out by the Planning and Development Department, and I so move.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any question or comment? Any? Hearing none. I'm sorry, Councillor Stiles? Is this all cleared land now, or?
Not at this point, no. They're if you
They're
look
gonna
over
have
there
to
now,
clear it.
they're going to have to clear it, but they're very much in the process, I guess, of putting in the structure there that they're putting in to create the storage yard. So it's not clear right yet, but I'm sure that it will be eventually when they get done.
Okay. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Okay. Moving right along, Your Worship, we have a request at 133 Smallwood Drive. This is for an increased fence height in the rear yard. It's an application from the property owners to remove the existing fence and to erect an 8-foot fence along the backyard of the property. The new fence would be placed within the property of 133 Smallwood Drive. The purpose of the new fence is to create some additional privacy for the use of their property in the rear yard and the sunroom that they have on the property, and to provide an additional deterrence for pedestrian traffic going through their property. Section 15 of the fence and retaining wall regulations states that unless otherwise approved by council, the maximum height of the residential fence is 1.8 meters above grade. Staff have reviewed this particular application. There are no objections on behalf of staff or on behalf of the committee. And therefore, it is the recommendation of the committee that the application for the 8-foot high fence to replace the existing fence at 133 Smallwood Drive be approved and a development permit be issued, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Questions? Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Stoyles.
Just for clarification, Councillor Ledwell, that'll just be at the back of the property and not going down the two sides?
That is correct, Deputy Mayor. That would be at the back of the property.
Councillor Stoyles.
I was just wondering, it's not for a hot tub or a swimming pool or anything like that. It's just a privacy fence. 8 feet is
My understanding.
Because I thought all the regulations were 6.
Councillor Ledwell? Is it for the purposes of surrounding a hot tub? Or something
No,
like
it is
that?
not for the purposes of surrounding a hot tub. It is simply installing a fence around the existing yard for some additional privacy. This particular property owner has had some issues with pedestrian traffic going through their property, a lack of privacy, and so therefore they have requested this additional height on their fence.
Okay, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
One or two more items, Your Worship. First of all, the development permit list for the period of June 30th to July 11th. You'll see the 3 permits that are up for consideration here, and I so move.
These are the development permits listed 42 to 44.
That is
Any
correct.
questions on any of these, folks?
What is the commercial school use? Anybody stand on that?
That's the training school for the Kempo, for the karate. Yeah,
These are all approved, anyway. These are routine approvals.
Yes.
pretty well. This is routine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
And just a couple more, Your Worship. For the period of June 30th to July 11th, 2014, we have our building.
How we doing?
We're doing okay. As you can see, we have another busy period on the residential side with our permitting. The total for the period is $154,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, in favor? Contrary minded, carried.
And finally, Your Worship, for the same period, June 30th to July 11th, for the commercial side, the total is $155,000, and I so move.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And that concludes planning.
I just
Moving on
have a question.
Oh, I'm
before
sorry, Councillor Stoyles,
In
question?
the development permit, the shop and personal fitness, 866 Topsail Road. This is not the one that we had there before where we had trouble with parking, is it? I'm just trying to get my head around the numbers because
Oh,
I'm...
you mean like the extreme body thing that we
when
had going on?
yes,
down
I'm
there?
just wondering if this is in the same area because back when we approved a fitness place before on Topsail Road, I think it was out further though, wasn't it? Remember it was across from Macoa. This is not, well... It's not the same location. Okay, I'm just wondering...
It's heavyweights,
I'm
but,
just
a
wondering,
different locale.
I'm just wondering if it's lots of
Well, let's
parking
ask
in that
Mr.
area.
Yevchek here. Mr. Yevchek, how do we answer the wondering?
Yeah, it is heavyweights, it's the same
Operator?
operator, except this is a different use. They do have, this is meant to be a retail operation with individual personal training.
But this is not the same address, is it?
No, it's not the property that we had the problems with.
Ah, right. Okay.
Actually, where this property is, to give you a sense of where it is, this is Westbrook Plaza, on the corner of Black Marsh and Topsail Road.
Okay,
Okay, I got you now.
Okay.
Okay, that answer everything, Councillor
it
Stoyles?
does. I just couldn't...
Good,
the numbers
good catch.
didn't-
All right, Transportation and Public Works, Councillor Tessier.
Thank you. Very short agenda tonight.
I should say Public Safety. I apologize, Council.
What did you say? Public Works.
Public Works just
Well, you know
flows
what?
off the tongue.
Went right over my head
Transportation
too.
and Public Works.
I must have
Transportation
heard
and
it the
Public
same.
Safety.
Transportation and Public Safety. On July 27th, it seems that 4,200 people think it's going to be smart to start running in Paradise and finish out Bannerman Park. They're going to be coming through, of course, Mount Pearl's borders. So Topsail Road is going to be closed from 8 in the morning until 10 that morning as well.
Are we throwing water at them?
I suspect there will be stations set up here and there to make sure that the runners are hydrated.
Who's running? David, you're not going this year.
I always tease that I would do the Telly 10, but by the time I stopped for lunch and by the time I had a nap, it would probably take me well into the next day.
You'd be way too late.
I'd be way too late. I'd miss all the festivities, and I don't want everybody delayed because of me.
I threatened to drive it. I think that's pretty good.
So just
And now in an electric car.
So just for the information of the motoring public, Topsail Road will be closed from 8 until 10. If anybody needs to leave the city for any kind of medical emergency or something like that, we certainly recommend that people take Brookfield Road or Richard Nolan Drive to hit Pitts Memorial Drive instead of Topsail Road because Topsail Road is going to be closed and it's going to be quite busy.
But our emergency response is up on Topsail Road that particular time. That location now. I'm just wondering if we should be aware them to have their trucks located somewhere.
They'd still be able to
operate.
Yeah.
I'm just.
There will be traffic on Topsail Road. It'll be one way and it should break a little bit. Yeah.
But I'm sure, again, Telly 10, the organizers have done this now for so many years that they know who they need to contact. They need to know who they need to make aware so that if, for example, the satellite ambulance service is compromised, well, I'm certain that they would probably temporarily relocate if that's necessary, or they'd always have the road right of way or the right of way anyway. So just for the information of the public, and of course, go and cheer our runners on. This is a magnificent event, and it's clearly very well attended. I think they had to put a cap on the number of people that they can allow to enter it now. The interest is that high. So that's wonderful. And speaking of busy streets, on July 29th, the Holy Sepulchre is having their outdoor mass, and we all know that brings with it very, very dense traffic. They're expecting about 12,000 people. Yeah. So it's going to be very busy along Black Marsh Road and Topsail Road. It starts at 7 on the evening of July 29th. So we want our motoring public as well to be aware of that, to be very mindful of pedestrians. This is a very important service for everybody who attends, and we want to make sure that everybody is safe and, if necessary or if you're in a hurry, take an alternate route on that evening.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's the conclusion of Transportation and Public Safety. That is the end of committee reports. Next agenda item is new business. I'm going to go first to Deputy Mayor Locke.
Just one item, Your Worship, for me to bring up. This whole notion of recycling, and it sparked my memory when I saw the Green Team here and their environmental initiatives. In my travels recently in Eastern Europe, one thing that struck me in my hotel, and I think I forwarded the picture to all my colleagues on council.
Something struck you in your hotel?
Yeah. It was, I missed your wit. Oh, God, I missed your humor, Councillor Walsh. I'm so glad you're back. Because the rest of them just don't have it, Councillor Walsh.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah. What I know.
You understand how close I am to you right now.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh, no, but let's be honest. John is the pun king.
Yeah, he's the pun king,
Yeah.
But they had this tube for battery recycling in the hotel lobby, and as I inquired, any establishment that sold batteries were required to recycle these. And, of course, I had some students with me in our travels, and one of them worked at our local Staples here, and she said, well, Mr. Locke, we do recycle batteries at Staples, and I wasn't aware of that. And I was just recently at a Rona out in Bay Roberts, and they also had a little booth set up there where they take these new light bulbs and batteries and all this sort of stuff. So I don't know if it's as prevalent in our city. I don't know. I would like to see us at least contact, the Staples and the Source and Walmart and Canadian Tire and Kent, whomever sells the batteries to implement this. I think it was a great initiative. And there was quite a few batteries collected in the hotel lobby. So I just wanted to throw that out there and see if we can't contact our local businesses, and maybe through our coordinator, Miss Angela Farrell, maybe we could get her onto that and see if we can't initiate something like that in the city.
Yes,
just two other things. We had two passings, as we all know. Mr. Evan Ash and Mr. Fred Bannister. Recently passed away. Fred Bannister, yes, yeah. So I just wanted to publicly express my condolences to their family and friends for their loss. And that's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stoyles.
I too want to pass along my sympathy to the two families, to Mr. Nash's family and to Fred G's family. Fred served 24 years. Him and Councillor Grant was two of the longest serving councillors in the city. Yourself, Your Worship, of course, is I think going to be the longest serving councillor.
I think I have now
you surpassed
them in
you
time.
Have,
maybe
but
I'm not sure. Maybe
G. Fred was for the longest time the longest serving councillor here within the city. He certainly played a big role in volunteering within the city. He was certainly a voice within the Seniors Independence and within the Legion. If anybody served or at any committee or been around with Mr. Bannister, certainly know he was well spoken and certainly able and vocal. And he certainly, I know he was 95, 96 years old. 95. So I'm sure his family certainly is going to miss him the past few years. He haven't been around as much as he had been in the past, but up until a couple of years ago he was quite active, and certainly want to pass along my sympathies to his family. Also, Your Worship, I have a couple of other items. The signs in our parks saying no dogs. I received a call from a group with soccer behind Mount Pearl Intermediate, and they would like to make sure that there's some signs down there, because they're saying there's an awful lot of animals roaming around when there's soccer games.
I don't think our signs say no dogs.
Don't say no dogs?
I think our signs say no dogs off leash, isn't it?
No, but I don't think we want dogs.
In the parks. Anyway, I was wondering if you could check it out and see, especially down around the Mount Pearl Intermediate School, behind the intermediate school. That's where I had received the complaints from.
Okay.
And also, Your Worship, last week, damage. We've spoken a number of times about graffiti and damage. My neighbourhood actually was hit just last weekend and Sunday and Monday night. Just about every one of those little lights you see, people had them. I think it was 7 or 8 of my neighbours in their gardens. I don't have any because I don't garden, but solar lights was not only taken and stolen, they were broken around, and people got up the next morning and drove out their driveways, and they had actually put them behind the tyres of some people's cars. When they drove in the mornings, they could hear the crunch, and apparently they were laid there specifically so people would roll over them. I think it was 8 or 9 of my neighbours that had vandalism. All the lights were gone and the flowers were torn up, and I mean, it was definitely a sign of vandalism. And I had contacted the municipal police, and they were up in the neighbourhood for a few nights, but this happened 5 a.m. in the morning, and they looked out and they saw some young people going around that hour in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and apparently it was over a couple of night span. And just wanted to mention it here today, because it's very disturbing when you spend so much money on these lights and beautify your property and spend so much time. Like one of the ladies said to me, she said, I've been tortured with cats, she said, for years, and she said it's something that I've come to live with, because they do a little bit of damage and they tear up some of my flowers. But she said when you come out and you see all your lights and everything gone in the morning, she said it's awful. So I wanted to mention that. And also I was asked by the city CEO to mention about water conservation. She just sent me a text a little while ago. So technology is great when you're doing something. We every now and then you see us on our phones or on our iPads looking at stuff, but we hear about
it's actually useful, isn't it?
It is useful, and of course we mentioned at the last public meeting that mornings and evenings on Wednesday and Thursday and Saturday is the 3 days for conservation. You can water your plants and your lawns and that at that time. So I just want to mention that again. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you. I would have thought, Councillor, you might have. I would have thought that you might have brought up any latest of information we have on the fire at the Babel's Big Pond power plant.
I didn't have much information on his email you sent, so.
Okay. Nobody from the regional service contacted you?
No.
Mr. Antle, anybody hear anything regarding?
It was on the news today, but other than that, I didn't
thank
hear
you. Councillor Walsh.
Okay, just a couple of quick things, Your Worship. Again, I want to just add my condolences to the Ash family. I think I wasn't aware that Evan was actually sick, or had been sick, or was it a sudden passing? I know he was a relatively young man at 69 years old, and I think G. Fred is going to be, obviously appropriately honored. He's been a long-standing councillor. He was a feisty old soul. Let's not kid ourselves. But I tell you, if he believed in a cause, he was one of the greatest allies that you'd ever want to have. So, two great community volunteers who will certainly be missed. Councillor Stoyles referenced cats. I know last meeting, in reading through the minutes, Councillor Tessier mentioned cats. I'm going to ask Mr. Antler if we could perhaps just put the cat trap thing back on our agenda for our meeting. I know that one resident, Councillor Tessier, who contacted you and I think copied council, was really, really frustrated because of the repetition of problems. It was just a repeated thing and an ongoing thing. And I know, Your Worship, you have a strong view on
Biting my tongue, Councillor.
I know.
Biting my tongue.
Well, I'm starting to
see it my way, aren't you?
I'm starting to think
You're
that
starting
maybe,
to see it my way. Just
maybe,
admit it.
Maybe a little bit.
Okay, good.
I think we probably need to do a bit more than we're doing, because let's face it, cats are not generally creating a nuisance between 8 and 4 every day. That's the issue, and I think
they don't carry a punch card.
No, they don't, and so we need to look at how we accommodate. I'm not totally where you were, because I don't want to see cat traps left and have cats trapped for long periods of times around weekends. But I think there are ways we can deal with that, and with some callback, or if there are identified areas of concern. But I think the cats, as much as they're only a nuisance, they can be a pretty big nuisance for people who suffer, repeated property damage. And again, you referenced these beautiful lawns and that sort of thing. So I'd like to put that on our agenda and see if we can come back with something that would be reasonable. I would love
to see a recommendation come back that actually makes it possible for homeowners to utilize the cat trapping system effectively
after hours and
but also taking into account the concerns you voiced. You don't want animals trapped in a cage and left for 48 hours or 24 hours or whatever it might be. But there's got to be a way to recognize that people are letting these cats out at night. Yeah. And they're roaming. I mean, a cat in Mount Pearl is supposed to be on the leash the same as a dog. Yeah. Nobody pays any attention to that. They all think we're silly. I got to be the only guy in town that's got a cat that actually goes out on a leash.
Yeah.
But we have to have a way to protect people and their property, and I look forward to the committee coming back with a recommendation.
We'll do something. I think the enforcement piece will only do so much. I think we have to work a little bit more diligently to have enforcement, and at the same time have that other piece, which I think is really important. So we'll get back to council on that in the next couple of weeks. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Tessier.
Yeah, just to echo on that, the concern that I had brought forward last time was, again, it's a matter of expense. It's not just a nuisance; it's a matter of money. People put a lot of money into their properties, beautifying it, as Councillor Stoyles just referenced with vandalism. And when you repair damage that's been done by a roaming animal, only to have it happen again and again and again, it's extremely frustrating. You can appreciate why people do get particularly upset about that. I want to join with council and express condolences to the Ash family and to the Bannister family. Evan Ash has been a tremendous asset to the Special Olympics community, particularly. Everybody in Mount Pearl who has ever attended Mount Pearl events on a regular basis would easily recognize Mr. Ash and certainly respect him for the hard work that he put into this community. We're all the better for it. And Councillor Walsh, you're absolutely right. G. Fred G. was definitely a force to be reckoned with. He kept council on our toes, make no mistake. And I remember the very first time I met him was my very first campaign, and I knocked on his door, and he invited me in for pea soup that he cooked himself. Lovely man, definitely did keep us on our toes. Very, very sharp right up until the end. I think he's not somebody you definitely wanted to get into a debate or an argument with unless you were completely prepared.
To lose.
Prepared to lose.
To lose.
Yeah, unless you were completely prepared to lose.
To lose, yes, that's right. But anyway, tremendous loss for both gentlemen, for our city, tremendous loss. When we were talking about our trailways earlier and keeping them clean and the pride that we put in our park spaces, we've been doing the Powers Pond Trail fairly regularly lately, walking the Powers Pond Trail, and I have to say with great delight that people seem to be cleaning up after their dogs. Because usually when we're in public chambers and we're talking about that, it's in the opposite vein. It's
Yeah,
people,
we need more of those
please clean up.
dispensers, though. I think we got 12 or something
There's-
up there now. We need 12 more.
I
you know?
notice that they're there. I notice that they have bags in them. But what I don't notice is that I'm sidestepping. I'm not sidestepping anything anymore. I'm not looking at people and saying there are bags over there for you to clean up after your pet. Because the pathways that we travel on, and we do a nice brisk 40-minute jaunt when we go, the pathways that we travel on are clean. And I just wanted to commend pet owners for being responsible with them, especially in our public areas.
Can I speak to that, Your Worship?
Deputy Mayor, yep.
If you would. I know during our Waterford River cleanup, between, say, where the Trailway intersects Park Avenue, right up to by the Commonwealth Avenue, by Piper's up there, one of the things that the most that we picked out of the trees were the bags. So the pet owners, I mean, they were cleaning up after their pets, but then they were proceeding to throw the bags into the woods. And speaking with some of the volunteers that were with us that day, well, they acknowledged that, they walk that with their pets, but there's very few receptacles to deposit, any sort of litter or doggy do or what have you, from Park Avenue right up to Piper's. So their request was, could we actually put in more receptacles?
Absolutely.
It's one thing that you clean up after your dog, but they don't want to carry it for 2 kilometers before they come to the next receptacle. So if we could just throw that out there, and that came to mind when Councillor Tessier mentioned about the cleanliness of it. It seems that it was evident that people were picking up after their dogs, but they had nowhere to deposit it once they actually scooped it up.
Thank you. Councillor Aker.
Yeah, just wanted to join my colleagues on council in wishing condolences to the family of Evan Ash, as well as the family of Fred G. Bannister. Both men had a very big impact on the city, in similar, but also in different ways. They're very dedicated to the causes they pursued, and they'll be sadly missed. City Days is happening this weekend. I think Fred's funeral is on Friday, as a matter of fact. And Friday at 2. And as we celebrate our City Days, Fred G. Bannister was certainly one of the city's founding fathers, no doubt. Maybe not the founding father, but certainly played a great role in building this city to what it is today. And finally, Councillor Walsh, John, welcome back. Good to see you. Thank you.
Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Of course, I too want to join with my colleagues in sending along my condolences to the families of Mr. Ash and Mr. Bannister. Having been involved on the board of directors of Special Olympics in my previous life before becoming a councillor, certainly I know Evan and his wife Alison very well. And I know that Evan is very much, or was very much, one of the rocks that Special Olympics Mount Pearl was built upon. And as we all know, it takes a very special person to devote their time and efforts over all of that period of time that Mr. Ash did to the Special Olympics and their athletes. We might recall he was the chairperson of the Summer Games, the Special Olympic Summer Games, when they were held here in the summer of 2009. And I know that all of the athletes and all of his friends and family are going to miss him, so my condolences to all of those folks. Of course, Mr. Bannister, what is there to say? Certainly, as a councillor of 24 years, a war veteran, a member of the Legion for almost 6 decades, there's certainly a life that speaks to service and commitment to one's community. So, my condolences to his friends and family as well. Councillor Tessier talked about her story when she first ran. I can recall the phone call that I got when I first campaigned, and he said, "So you're the young fellow that's going to run for council?" And he started in, of course, and we had quite the conversation, which I'll always remember. So my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Bannister. One more item before I take my leave this evening. The Knights of Columbus, the Father John B. Kent Council here in Mount Pearl. I know we often highlight our numerous award-winning volunteers and our wonderful community groups and organizations, but Your Worship, yourself and myself attended their year-end dinner for the Knights of Columbus just last week, and certainly just want to highlight that the council, the Father John B. Kent Council, won 4 awards out of only 13 or 14, I believe, at the state convention this past spring for the Knights of Columbus as a province. So that's pretty significant, I think. As well, the Grand Knight down at the Knights of Columbus, Father John B. Kent Council, Mike Hussey.
First time ever.
First time ever, that's right. And Mike was selected the best Grand Knight in the province out of all of the different 30-some-odd councils.
38.
38. Your Worship,
Man,
you know this better than I do. You know this better than I do.
Well, I
should've
just
left
have
for
this
you.
tremendous photographic memory for absolute complete trivium.
There you go. Well,
What I need
in any
to know, I
case,
forget.
in any case, congratulations to Worthy Grand Knight Mike and all of the Knights of Columbus on a wonderful year.
Yeah, we're gonna send Mike a little note of congratulations as well. I think it's tremendous. They had quite a tremendous year actually in 2013-14. And Mike is carrying on. They're going to go strong again, and that's really, really positive, really positive. Okay, well, that concludes new business. Just to say this, everybody's pretty well said everything they can. Evan Ash was an extraordinary volunteer, not just at the community level, but at the national level, and was recognized nationally by Special Olympics Canada for his outstanding work, and was at one point awarded and recognized as Special Olympians Volunteer of the Year nationally. Mount Pearl Special Olympics is, without doubt, I think, the number one, not only largest, but best, returning more winners per capita than anyone else. And they have a tremendous, tremendous program. And quite frankly, Evan Ash is at the heart of that program actually having been built and established. His funeral, by the way, was I believe, today. And unfortunately, we were not able to attend. But I am hoping that other members of council Friday at 2 will be able to join me at the Church of the Ascension for the celebration of the life of Fred Bannister. As you know, he was elected first in 1961. And in 1961, Mount Pearl was all of about 6 years old. Had just become quite literally a community. And by the time they got to about 1972-73, Mount Pearl was in real trouble. And was in the throes of possibly being swallowed up, divvied up, and handed around because we weren't able to do it on our own. By the 1980s, we had made such progress that there was talk that maybe the place should have its own legislative act, but that would have required that the place be a city. And in July of 1988, Mount Pearl was designated a city. That brief, short history of Mount Pearl has Fred Bannister's name all over it. There will be a flag flying at half-mast beginning on late Thursday evening into Friday, probably there for the weekend. It is an honor that we bestow upon any deceased former councillors. In this particular instance, long after he left council, Fred was around. He was passionate about his church, he was passionate about his community, and he was certainly passionate about the Legion. He saw the Legion survive a debacle several years ago where Branch 36, he was one of the founding members, went through a time where the branch came close to collapse. He was one of the architects and engineers that made it possible for them to survive, and he used the city of Mount Pearl to help make it happen, and we helped make it happen. He lived to see the Legion move to what I'll call for them a brand new building. City of Mount Pearl helped make that happen too. But if anybody wondered about where Fred's heart was, there's about $125,000 worth of reservations nobody planned for that Fred was able to get done, and he did that when he was like 94 years old. The only thing that he doesn't get to see is he doesn't get to see the removal of the cenotaph and the placement in what I hope we will consider a leisure and memorial park when we're done at St. David's. He didn't get to see that, but he was the guy who was chair of the committee that got to sign the documents that said it was all going to happen on behalf of the Legion in this city. So all kudos to him, and our deepest condolences to the family of these two tremendous volunteers. There is an old saying, and I don't know who it was anymore, and I have racked my brain all day, and I haven't had a chance to look it up. It says this, that a life lived in service to others is a life well lived. These two men lived great lives. I'm going to end on that note, everybody. I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Ledwell, we stand adjourned.